Okay, good morning, class. I had started with political ecology, right?
Yes, ma'am.
In the last class, what did I talk about? Why is Dipanshi the only person who remembers? What about the rest of you?
Ma'am, I think in the last class we saw the video on Western Ghats. Uh,
Hmm.
yes, ma'am, that is the video that
Yes,
we
yes,
saw.
ma'am.
And
Yes, ma'am.
then I began with political ecology. Vasundhara, um, I had started talking about how politics is a very important aspect of this particular issue of Western Ghats. You remember that? Only
Ma'am, you
Dipanshi.
have to start with historical and political ecology.
Yes, yes. But I had already introduced to all of you a bit of political ecology,
Yes,
and
ma'am.
yeah, I had talked about how there is, differences in terms of power distribution and power structures in our society, as a result of which you will find out that even the ecology is treated differently. Okay. Now, Julian Stewart had a student called Eric Wolf. Now, this person was responsible for popularizing the term political ecology, and it was not very old. It is not a very old term. It is something which is only 50 or 60 years old term, which talks about the power distribution or the power relationships um, in our day-to-day conflicts, in our day-to-day negotiations and alliances between people, between communities, and how it has an impact on our ecology. And political ecology's main concern is with regard to power relations and understanding conflicts from a micro to a macro level. And when I say micro, I mean households, to a macro level, which is a global level, from local to global level. Now, it is something which again will seem confusing to you, because you will not be able to make sense of why in ecology are we trying to understand about politics. But as I have told you people, and I showed you that documentary that day, and I explained to you people how the Western Ghats or any place in India or the world, politics plays a significant role, because as you can understand, our ecology is also controlled by our you can say policies, and policies are a very significant part of how an ecology will be treated. Okay, if in the policy of the government you will find ecology as a significant duty, maintenance of the ecology as a significant duty, then you will realize that that is something that promote in a particular community, and their policies are going to focus on a particular ecology per se. Like, because I can give you an example, that because I come from UP, and in UP we have seen some interesting regimes of government, and one of the regimes of government has been primarily focused on restoring the ecology, and that has been who is that? I think it is BSP. Yeah, it is Akhilesh Yadav's regime that has primarily focused on, the restoration of ecology. So we have known that, when he will, as and when he has ever come to power, I'm not talking about specifically his father, but I'm talking about him, that as and when he has come to power, we have seen that in UP, green drive has become very significant for his policies. He doesn't allow trees to be cut rampantly. He generally, wherever there is a park being inaugurated, he has ensured that at least 96% of the park remains inaccessible to human activities. And so, interestingly, what he would do was he would plant some of the rarest species of trees native to that region that have been removed for some reason or so, and 96%, at least 96% of the landmass is just dedicated to green cover, and only 3 to 4% of the landmass is open to human activities. So that is the only part which is available to man. Rest, they can go around and see the trees, but cutting of trees is not allowed, and that has in many ways restored many green patches. And that is a policy level initiative. So when I talk about political ecology, I am going to be basically focusing on how politics in many ways informs the way ecology is going by you know politicians, by people in power, and how these power relationships also determine access to resources. Are you getting my point?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So, the thing is that environmental politics is a very important thing. Okay. Now, why is environment or concerns of environment known as environmental politics? Can anyone tell me this? What is the focus of environmental politics? You can at least try. Okay, you don't have to tell me the correct answer right away, but you can at least try to think what is the meaning of environmental politics.
I think because politics is a system where people come to power and they practice a certain amount of power which has significant influence on the society and ecology ecosystem, like you just gave the example. So in political ecology, we are focusing on that aspect of how people who come in power, who people who decide a great amount of things, they can influence the environment.
Okay, now let's go a little bigger. I gave you the example of a state. Okay, um, let's go to a larger framework. Um, who uh, who governs the environmental laws beyond the country? I'm asking everyone. I'm not asking Georgia. I'm asking everyone. Who governs the laws, the environmental laws beyond the country? That is bigger than the country. Politics, national
Ma'am,
politics.
international organizations.
What are those international organizations? Can you name some?
Ma'am, UNICEF, although
No, not
like
UNICEF.
no, they
UNICEF
don't
is
have a role in the environment thing. I'm just like stating an example for international organizations. Uh, like WHO is an international organization and it governs
health.
a lot of yes, ma'am. It governs health. Yes, ma'am.
Anyone?
Ma'am, IUCN, I think IUCN is an international organization for
UNESCO.
UNESCO. IUCN is an international union for conservation of nature, Vasundhara. It has one function, conservation of nature. IUCN is not something that governs the political, environmental politics. Okay, just give me a moment. I'll try to share with you people few things. Um,
Ma'am, United Nations
yeah,
Framework for Climate Change.
yeah, UNFCCC, IPCC, UNEP. But just give me a moment. I'll just show it to you. Just a moment. Let me know if my screen is visible to all of you, okay?
Yes, ma'am, it's
Yes,
visible.
ma'am.
Can you see UNEP?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, what I'm trying to highlight here is it's a very interesting nexus of public policy. It's a very interesting nexus. When I say UN environment, interestingly, you have United Nations Environment Program. Okay. I'll have to, I think, disconnect my video to be able to allow the bandwidth to do multiple things. Okay, just a moment. Just see this particular, can you see my screen, UN environment?
Yes, ma'am.
Um, okay. Then, interestingly, I think Dipanshi took the name of UNFCCC, climate change. देखिए, United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. ठीक है? This is another body of United Nations. UNEP, UNFCC. कहाँ गया? Hide. Can you see this? Is my screen visible to all of you still?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So I just wanted to show you people. There is Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC. Can you see this? Now, this is a intergovernmental panel that is, and you can see the parent organization. World Meteorological Organization, United Nations. It's going to really confuse you. See, this is what I didn't want it to happen. But anyway, it's going to really confuse you. As you can see, there is World Meteorological Organization, United Nations Environment Program. Then, yeah, this is the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. What does it do? Anyone who happens to know this? What does it do? See this. Can you see this particular section?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I want you to just give a moment and read it quickly. Not more than 2 minutes it will take. I think it will take less than 2 minutes. Just quickly read this section. Is it done?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So now you have read IPCC. Okay. Now I'll show you UNEP. UNEP क्या है? Who we are. About us देखते हैं. This is again बहुत छोटा सा लिखा हुआ है, फटाफट इसको you can just read it and you can make, if you're writing notes, then you can just write that these are some of the global bodies. Okay, And इसमें side में देखो, इसमें there's also some interesting thing given here. By the way, these are also some interesting places where you can apply for internships.
Ma'am, do they even give internships?
That's a difficult question to answer. It totally depends on whether you know um, UN language. There are a lot of things that you have to consider. But yeah, they do give voluntary internships and all. Obviously, they expect exceptional profiles, but let me just discuss a little more, and we'll see how these bodies are made and how these bodies are going to be functioning for climate control, and then you'll understand their political nature. And Vasundhara, then probably you'll realize that this is more to do with policy making and a power distribution rather than actually being directly concerned with um, how do I say, climate change. Are you getting my point?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm sure you have read this also, EP.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I'm not going into too many details because see, that is just going to confuse all of you. So I'm just closing this UNEP. Then you have ये UNEP का ही है. I'm closing this also. Then you have UNFCCC. I think ये मैंने open कर रखा है. Okay. Some familiar terms: Kyoto Protocol, Paris Agreement, and other, Hyogo framework. HFA भी था. अभी Kyoto Protocol चल रहा है, HFA खत्म हो गया है. So this is UNFCC. I don't know about us इसमें last में. They don't even have us. Uh, no thanks, no thanks. Just read this first paragraph. I don't want you people to read anything more. Just read this first paragraph quickly. Yes, has everyone read this first paragraph?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so now I'm stopping the screen sharing, and now I'm going to uh, ask you people, what did you understand of this? What can you make out of this particular set of organizations that I talked about? And mind you, these are very few of the organizations. There are several more, but these are very few of the organizations. What did you understand of them? What do they do exactly?
Ma'am, they set up
Ma'am,
agendas for
one.
countries to
Yes.
combat climate change.
Okay. And
They distribute powers as of which country is taking what kind of measures. For an example, now China has taken that it will go carbon neutral by 2060. So it's saying that China holds much more
ratification.
power,
That is known
much
as
more power.
ratification. Yeah,
Yes,
that
ma'am.
particular term that you were talking about, it is called ratifying to a particular agreement. That is, if I ratify to Paris Agreement, then I will take into account all the agenda and targets set up by Paris Agreement. As a country head, I am going to promise to the rest of the world that my data is going to reflect whichever is the target date for or target year for that particular agenda. I'm going to say that my country is going to abide by that agenda and promises that in doing so we are going to try to achieve all the aims listed or the obligations or the objectives listed in that particular thing, in that particular agreement copy, and we are going to ratify to it. And ratifying to it actually comes with legally binding agreements, which is a very strong statement. And legally binding means that you are sitting in an elite group of people where you have promised something, and now your honor and prestige is something which is at stake if you do not achieve the said targets. Yes, Vasundhara, you had briefly raised your hand.
Ma'am, one particular thing I was I noticed because we had started today's session with political ecology, because we want to understand that on all these 3 to 4 sites that we just saw, there was a mention of that we have formed a treaty, or we have this with the 197 parties, 195 parties. So it was not just countries, it was parties, which I directly translate to, I think, political parties. So
No,
they
no, no.
are, yes, ma'am.
They are not political parties. They are various countries and various countries representing parties. And the number is variable only because there are some in United Nations. There are some bodies that recognize a certain number of countries. There are some bodies that do not recognize a certain number of countries. It totally, again, it is a political recognition that you get. If you know that the Security Council of United Nations was supposed to have 5 members, and till date you can go on introducing more terms, more protocols, but the 5 member Security Council still remains strong. Do you know who are these members? Anyone who
What was the
knows?
question?
Sorry.
What was the question?
I asked that the Security Council, the UN Security Council, from the very beginning was supposed to have 5 member party. Okay. Now these 5 member parties were 5 different countries. Can anyone tell me which 5 countries were a
Ma'am,
part of
US,
UNSC?
ma'am, US,
US,
France,
Russia,
France,
Ma'am,
Russia,
China.
China,
China,
Australia.
Ma'am, I think
Australia,
France,
France,
and ma'am,
US.
France is
United
there.
Kingdom.
Is Australia there?
No,
no,
ma'am.
ma'am, I don't think so.
No, ma'am.
Ankur,
Australia is
Australia
not there.
It's
leads.
Brazil, ma'am. I think it's Brazil. Because Brazil. No, no, Brazil came in
Nahin,
late.
Brazil
No,
nahi.
ma'am. Brazil is also
You're
not
talking
there.
about the initial, like when they started that time.
Yes.
Let's say Russia, France, China.
Russia, France, China, US, and one more.
Ma'am, United Kingdom.
Yes. Is it United Kingdom or Germany?
Ma'am, I think it's United Kingdom.
United Kingdom. Yeah.
Ma'am, United Kingdom, ma'am. My guess, because they were supposed to be the allies, right?
Yes, 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 yes. Um, now, what I want to talk to you about is, when we talk about politics, you really need to understand that so far, you know, the entire globe we divide into northern hemisphere and southern hemisphere. Northern hemisphere has invariably had the control in terms of everything of southern hemisphere. You can take the example of race, you can take the example of resource, you can even take the example of psychology. Okay, how do people think? Even that is controlled by northern hemisphere. Are you getting my point? In politics, when you will look at the division, you will never find Latin America above US. Latin America is in the southern hemisphere. United States of America is in the northern hemisphere. United Kingdom. But have you ever seen Africa figuring before United Kingdom or USA? Anyone?
No, ma'am.
What,
Yeah.
ma'am? I didn't
Georgian,
understand.
are you able to hear clearly, Georgian?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I'm just going to repeat something. I'm just saying that interestingly, the world power has concentrated, and in terms of politics, I'm talking about. So, whenever we talk about politics, please understand politics doesn't only mean political parties, politics is there everywhere. There is power relationship everywhere. So, politics figures as and when there is power dynamics at play. Anyway, okay. Politics is there in language. Politics is there when I'm teaching you, there is a power relationship. Okay, I think I have discussed this before in some previous semesters with you or some other class. I don't remember, maybe your class only. But anyway, there is a particular protocol with the power relationship and the power obligations that come at play. Okay, there is a point at which you will converse with me, and beyond that point you will not converse with me, and neither will I indulge you in a conversation, right? The reason for that is the power position or the division of power that is held between you or I. Okay, now when I'm talking about this, I'm trying to tell you, you have to translate something so macro, which is something so micro, which is happening between a class and uh, the teacher, to something which is macro. Okay, I'll explain to you that. In a class, if I constantly validate academic performance of one student, are you please be very careful when I'm giving you an example. If I validate, and that can be my biased understanding or that can be my true understanding, it doesn't matter. If I am somebody as an individual, as a teacher, if I'm somebody who is very influenced by a student's academic growth, and I keep on in my particular classes, I keep on just validating and recognizing that one student, okay, what will happen? There will be a mob psychology that will slowly form in your class, that if you've missed out on any notes, instead of asking a person who you consider as more intelligent, you're that the teacher constantly recognizes as academically intelligent. Are you getting my point?
Yes, ma'am.
What
Yes.
about the rest of you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I'll suppose I randomly pick one person. I can see Ritika's picture here in the center. Now, suppose I'm teaching ecology, and in ecology, I only converse and I only tell Ritika that she is doing the best in this particular class. So, even if there is some other student that unanimously you agree upon as a student who you think is intelligent, it can be anybody, it can be just about anybody, unanimously agree that this person is the best when it comes to academic work. In my particular course, you will not ask that particular student, you will go and ask Ritika. Reason for that is, me holding the power position here, I am constantly recognizing Ritika for human ecology. Are you able to understand this example? Now you need to understand this at a global level. Okay, globally, these powers, okay, these northern hemispheric powers that I'm talking about, and you will see none of these. That is why, Ankur, I asked you when you said Australia, I wanted to know, is Australia there, because it seemed a little odd for you to mention Australia. Globally, from the times of historical, from the times of history that we refer to, power has always remained with the northern hemisphere. It has never come down, never. And obviously there is also the division between western hemisphere and eastern hemisphere. If we are dividing earth into west and east, power has always been in the northwest. It has never come to eastern part, and it has never come to southern part. It is the northwest part which is interestingly where the global powers have concentrated. You find USA, United States of America, you find France, you find United Kingdom, you even find parts of Russia, erstwhile Russia, because now erstwhile USSR, and the only odd one, and I would say black sheep, would be China. The only reason is that China, by virtue of being one of the largest and being the supplier and being very, very aggressively, had to be given some representation. Okay, but the validation here, the northwest, validation and constant recognition of everything is from the northwest, and that is how power is distributed. Are you getting my point?
Yes,
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 ma'am.
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 Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is, as a teacher, if I'm recognizing Ritika, so if I'm representing that northern hemisphere and western world power, then Ritika for me is any of those countries that I can put my faith in because I have an internal understanding with her. Okay, that is exactly what happens on a global map as well. Okay, it's just a matter of politics in many places when we talk about climate change. Okay, if the Western world and the Northern Hemisphere decides that India is going through a climate crisis, then the rest of the world will say, okay, India is going through a climate crisis. If the rest of the world decides that Latin America is going through climate crisis, then the rest of the world agrees that yes, Latin America is going through climate crisis. Are you getting my point? So it is these 5, 6 parties, these 5, 6 bodies that sort of govern the entire psychology of the world. And it is a very important power. And might I say, it is very mighty and they control it. And therefore, you will find, if you will look at IPCC, UNEP, UNFCC, you can find out IUCN, because Vasundhara also mentioned IUCN. Then there used to be WWF. Now WWF is nowhere in the picture. Interestingly, there used to be WWF, which is World Wildlife Fund. Somewhere World Wildlife Fund has taken a back seat. There's so many bodies. Okay, there's also UNESCO. UNESCO, interestingly, has an interesting amount of focus on biodiversity again. So I just wanted you to first understand how power relationships work. So in India, which is a third world country, recognition comes only when these countries that are in the northern hemisphere and the western part of the world, when they recognize. So if they recognize India is in crisis, then India thinks that it is in crisis. If they recognize that India is a victim between n number of conflicts, then India thinks that it is a victim. So it's the kind of political support people can gather. Now, environment, as you can understand, is all about resources. And when we talk about resources, then the control of the resources is something which is very important. So, Middle East, what is the resource that it is known for?
Oil.
Ma'am, oil.
And that is
Oil.
why, what happens? The Western world very conveniently turns a blind eye towards a lot of issues that the Middle East may be facing.
Ma'am, you're not audible.
Ma'am is not in the meeting anymore, I think.
किसी ने किक किया क्या?
I think everyone is attendee, so I
Akshat.
don't think कि किसी ने kick करा होगा.
Obviously.
Akshat.
I'm
Akshat.
sorry, I got disconnected for some strange reason. I don't
Yes,
know.
ma'am.
Yeah, so that's what I was trying to explain to all of you. I hope you are able to make sense of what I was talking about and how politics is associated with it.
Ma'am, we just heard you till you were saying like they are known for the oil reserves, and after that, that this fact is ignored and Middle East is ignored, ma'am. That's, I
No, no,
think.
no, no. I did not say this fact is ignored. I said that it is very interesting that any other thing about Middle East, any other fault in the Middle East, like, see, what I'm trying to say is that because Middle East is a nexus of countries that are recognized for oil reserves. It is a nexus of countries which is recognized for providing oil to the first world countries. They have a lot of money, right? They have a lot of money. And the first world country, interestingly, is always the first to talk about any kind of mishap that takes place anywhere in the world. Do you understand what I'm saying? If there is a conflict, if there is an ongoing conflict going on between India and China, then again the first world countries would be the first to sort of recognize this. Okay. And but what about the internal conflicts of the Middle East? You will find that it is not something that is being discussed only because very conveniently these things are ignored for one reason. It is providing oil to the first world. Are you getting my point? Are you able to follow it? What I'm trying to say?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
There are
Yes,
many
ma'am.
issues concerning how women are treated in that region. There are many issues concerning how, in general, the laws are partial towards the royal family and the non royal family members. Despite that, you find that the first world country never talks about human rights, never talks about anything that they may be talking in general with the rest of the world. Okay, if China does something, if India does something, there is a face off going on between these two nations. You will find the first world expressing concern. You will find the first world expressing political statements, releasing political statements in favor of China. If there is some kind of conflict going on in between India and Pakistan, again, US, Russia, all these nations will take will give out statements in favor of or against, these nations. But you will never find, you will never find that they are ever releasing statements with regard to certain countries and certain nations with whom they have strong business interests. So, all I today wanted you to understand was I was just creating a background for you to understand how power distribution, how power relations help you in significantly, giving, prioritizing or not prioritizing certain things which may be a matter of concern for the rest of the world. Are you getting my point, everyone? So you
Yes,
will
Yes,
ma'am.
yes.
see that if these 5 6 members recognize that a certain thing is an environmental problem, then the rest of the world will feel like recognizing this as the global problem. However, if they do not recognize it in that manner, then the rest of the world will not recognize it as a significant issue. Are you getting my point? So we will
Yes,
discuss
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
this in greater detail. We will discuss this in greater detail in the next class, where I will talk about how significant, we will do some case studies of ecology, and I will talk about how it is very important for you to understand ecology and how you are supposed to understand the whole aspect of environmental politics. Okay, because environmental politics helps you in determining which which environmental concerns are grave concerns and which environmental concerns can be overlooked. Okay, financial funds are distributed based on these power relationships. Okay, financial fundings are distributed based on these power relationships between nations, between communities. As a result of that, again, you will find there is a significant amount of focus on the power relationships, again, when it comes to allocation of funds. Which mangrove will be globally recognized as a UNESCO heritage site, which mangrove may not be recognized as a UNESCO heritage site, which area or which ecosystem is something which is of a sensitive nature, which area is not. All of these things are a part of global politics. Okay, is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
so next class I will discuss with you some case studies and try to explain to you how international politics is also environmental in nature, because it very clearly translate into who holds the control of resources. It very clearly translates into who controls the resources of environment, and how does again that translate into power. Is it clear, everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yes,
okay.
ma'am.
Ma'am, I
Oh,
just have one thing.
yes.
Ma'am, like, is it the reason why the coronavirus was labeled as a pandemic? Is it only because that US and France and these countries were the first ones to be affected majorly by the virus?
Of course, of course. There is
Ma'am, so if
always.
we people were dying in our country, they wouldn't have considered us that it's a
Of course not.
pandemic.
Of course not, Vasundhara. They would not have considered it. Please understand, until and unless it affects a member of um, a white population. See, I'm time and again mentioning, that is why I want you people to understand. It's a very important division of power that you need to understand. So when I'm time and again trying to tell you people about how power is being distributed, of course, till the time the virus did not spread in the white world, Ebola virus was not a matter of concern for them. वहां से Africa से people were shouting that it is a very deadly virus, it is killing so many Africans and this and that and everything, but nobody bothered till there were few people traveling to the white world. So yes,
Okay, ma'am.
yes, that is something which is an epidemic for that country. For us, it is still an epidemic. It becomes a pandemic only when these global powers recognize it as a pandemic. Okay, वर्ल्ड वाइड शटडाउन हैपेंड, तो फिर इंडिया ने सोचा कि अच्छा हम भी शटडाउन कर ही देते हैं केस, जनवरी में आ गया था, फिर फरवरी में आ गया था. Cases were being reported. Everybody knew that there was coronavirus. Why did it take 3 months or 4 months for? Why is it called COVID-19? Because it was discovered way back in December 2019. The scientists were shouting at the top of their lungs that this virus is deadly, it is going to kill many. Okay, of course there is a power politics at play. Of course there is a significant amount of stake. Now suddenly everywhere lockdown has been relaxed because US and the first world decided to relax, even if it is something which is a stupid decision medically speaking and scientifically speaking, because the white world decided to relax their lockdown rules. We have also relaxed our lockdown rules. While we have 4 times the population that they have, we have the youngest population in the world, then also we have decided to relax our lockdown norms. What is the reason for that? The white world. Because our economy is getting affected, which could have been strategically controlled, but the economy was affected way before the lockdown even started. It was affected for the past 10 years. So this is not a matter of mystery. Okay, so that is why I wanted you to understand what may become a crisis. Amazon fires happened, and when they started, people in Latin America were shouting for 2 months before it became a matter of concern, and then suddenly there were posters that our lungs are burning. Why not before that? Obviously, because the white world did not take notice of that. There's so many things that are a major problem. India had tuberculosis deaths way greater than COVID-19, but then nobody recognized it because it was in India. So that is what I'm trying to say. That everywhere, international politics is a very significant problem. Okay, international politics may be a problem and may be a boon. I don't mean to say that it is a significant problem. Look at the amount of allocation of funds that is done for HIV compared to other infectious diseases. So look at the amount of fund that is being distributed. You should see there are some really nice right now, because it is the election time in US. Some really nice, interesting things are coming up with regard to how the drugs are being priced in USA, and how these drugs prices only take into account the corporate benefits and the aspect of profit for the world and for the companies, rather than actually looking at the larger motive of providing health well-being to the patients. And you can see this would have not never happened had enough investments been done in in due time. Not enough investment is being done in teaching medical students. So what will they do in terms of diagnosis? There's a lot more that you will see happening, and a lot worse that you will see happening owing to this reason. Anyway, we'll discuss this in the next few classes. And so political ecology, I wanted you to understand that this is the core of political ecology, and then we'll talk about other things. Okay, so I'm stopping here right now, and then we can talk about this later further on. Okay.